Happy Monday, Broncos country. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Broncos. I'm Bree Maestas here with Zach Seegers and Joey Richards. Guys, how are you?
I'm doing good. I always look forward to this podcast. I had an extremely busy day, kind of a rough one, but I mean, this is the beautiful thing about the Let's Talk Broncos podcast. I get to come here after that and talk football with my friends. This is like my favorite thing in the world. So I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to talk about the latest news going on. There's so much, but yeah, I'm doing good. Zach, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. A drama-filled day in Broncos country. Had a great time last week on Broncos Country Tonight. If anyone missed our Friday show, we kind of did that instead of the Friday show. So check that out. And happy to be back with all of you. We haven't been here since Wednesday, which has got to be our longest break away from Let's Talk Broncos since like June or July or something crazy like that, maybe even May. Excited to be back with you.
I know. I feel bad. We told everyone we advertised a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then we said, you know what? We're going to do something else. But we're back. We're here. And as Zach already said, it's been a busy day here. I think one of the most hectic and exhausting days thus far covering the team. We're going to talk a lot about the Denver Broncos coaching search and the divisional round playoff thoughts. Lots to cover here tonight. I want to remind anyone that if you're watching over on Twitter, you need to jump on over to the YouTube or the Facebook stream so you can get your questions and comments highlighted. I know you have them. Don't keep them from us. We're going to start off and we're going to jump right into it. Some interesting news out of Broncos country, particularly Howard Balzer over from All City Sports, the Phoenix division, let us all know that there was something in the works with Sean Payton and the Arizona Cardinals. What's interesting to note here is that not only is this taking place somewhere else, that it's happening as a first interview for that team in particular. Does this affect the Denver Broncos' second interview that was slated to take place on Wednesday? Guys, we had a lot of thoughts off of the air. We've been kind of trying to talk through it. So we're about to talk through it now with all of Broncos country. What do you guys anticipate from the Arizona Cardinals interview that's going to happen on Thursday? How will that affect Sean Payton on Wednesday? Is that delayed? Because we haven't gotten a really concrete answer out of anyone. To me, I thought initially it could have been a move to increase leverage for Sean Payton and his camp. But so far, I'm rather confused. I'm hoping you guys can clear that up for me.
Yeah, for me, I don't think it's a huge deal. I really don't. It's the Cardinals' first interview with them, and they just hired a GM. So if you're going to put a request out there, you're going to get in later because they were later to hire a GM to even know who they're interested in for a head coach. So, yes, the Broncos are getting a second interview. That's important. The Cardinals are getting their first interview. That's another important thing. Could definitely be the draw up interest. That's a possibility, Bree. Or not to draw up interest, but to leverage. Like if the Cardinals were to go in there and make some offer to Sean Payton right off the bat, he could go back to the Broncos in their second interview where he knows they're probably not going to want to take him off, let him leave Denver and be like, well, I have this other opportunity over here. Cha-ching, like give me more money. I don't know how much that pays into effect. It could also just be him going to, it's been widely reported that the ownership and that relationship that he'll have with the owners is the biggest factor. So he's going to go make sure that he meets these people in person, all of them, before he makes his decision on who he wants to go with. Like if these people blow him away, he might just be like, I'm going over there with the Cardinals. I don't know if it's a huge deal. I don't think it is. Like I said, the Broncos, I think, are still going to get their second interview while the Cardinals are having their first. That's the main thing I want to hit home right there. But yeah, that's all I really have.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. It's the Cardinals' first interview with Payton, the Broncos' second. But yeah, I think it's more than just a leverage play. Obviously, having another team out there ups the leverage a little bit. There's a little more competition. But the Cardinals, you're talking about one of the cheapest ownership groups in the league. This is a big reason they didn't fire Steve Keim until now. they've had a lot of in-house GMs. Their current GM that they just hired is the first guy they didn't promote from within, which is a way to save money, in like the past decade and a half. I don't know if they can get into a Sean Payton bidding war outside of picks, and leveraging the pick stuff is only going to hurt Sean Payton because it's going to rob him of assets to coach with. To me, it reads as genuine, I think, to Joey's ownership point, genuine interest in the Cardinals to some level. Now, I think the fact the Cardinals just hired a GM and are only able to give Sean Payton so much power as a result of that decision, I think that kind of caps how intriguing they can become. But you've got Kyler Murray, who I think is not an ideal quarterback situation, but probably the best quarterback situation of any of these coaching jobs, at least that's currently installed. Texans have a high pick, of course. I think that's really the big selling point is you've got Kyler Murray, you've got some fun young pieces on offense. The defense is kind of a mess, to be honest. I mostly with Joey, I think it's not that concerning. I think the Broncos are a more appealing job overall, but to me, just considering how taxing the interview process is for these coaches, it's generally close to a whole day ordeal outside of the travel and everything associated with it. I think if you didn't have interest in this job, it'd be very easy to just not change all your plans around.
Is it late in the cycle for a first interview with a team? Do you think that interest built up for the Cardinals once they heard what the initial asking price would be for Sean Payton?
I think it's more of a product of getting, and Joey brought up this point when we were talking about it pre-show, so credit to him for that. They just hired their GM, which is weird. When I saw them do that, I was like, okay, Cardinals are out of the Sean Payton sweepstakes, and now it's instead it's entered them into the Sean Payton sweepstakes. We'll see how that goes. If I was a first-time GM, I would try and bring Sean Payton under me. Well, but maybe I wouldn't, because I'd be very scared that Sean Payton would immediately try and force my way out of the organization or minimize my power to the point where I was just a puppet GM.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for a new GM, this would be such a, come in right away and make stuff shake move. Like, this dude was hired. How long ago was this guy hired? Probably maybe 2 weeks or a week. Is somewhere, I think, probably in that range. And if he came in and traded his first round pick literally after like a week or two after getting the job, it would be pretty insane. Like, credit to that guy if he was able to do it, because you came in not messing around. So credit to him on that. But I don't know. For me, I'm not putting too much stock into it. Yes, the interview's delayed, but also yes, the Cardinals are just showing interest. If the ownership is a big factor, and literally out of his own mouth, he explained that that's the biggest factor for him. He's going to go meet with these people and be curious. That's the word I'd use, curious. He's probably curious to meet all of the owners. There's been reports coming out of Houston that meeting didn't go well. He didn't like the McNairs. You know, it came out of Denver that he really was impressed by the owners. But before he met these people, I don't think he had interest in any of it. It was more of a curiosity. I'm going to go in there, see what's happening, see if I like these people, and then from that, then I will make a decision. That's kind of the way I look at it.
It's a breath of fresh air to know that both sides of each aisle are doing their due diligence and taking their time as they cast their wide net to make the most appropriate choice for both parties. It is interesting, though. I wonder if that increases the cash price tag on Sean Payton or not. To your point, Joey, January 16th was the hire date for the new GM over in Arizona. So that is quick movement there. I was anticipating the Denver Broncos not allowing Sean Payton to leave on Wednesday if at all possible. So I think there was just a little bit of a heart heart sink there as they chose to wait a little bit longer. But it sounds like the Walton Penner Group is not in any type of hurry to make a decision. And I think that we can all both understand and respect it, but also it's making me a little stir crazy. I'm ready for a decision so we can move on to what the staff is going to look like. I've got questions about offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, but I'm sure all of that will be addressed in due time. I'm just not very patient. Hello, Frankie. Thanks for joining the show. Also wanted to shout out to Paul. Paul is in here as well. Hello, friend. We are so glad that you're here with us. If you're watching over on anywhere and you just want to comment on the show, you have to do so either on the Facebook or the YouTube. We'll get your questions and comments highlighted, and we're going to jump into divisional round because what a weekend it was. Couple of upsets. The only lock that I submitted on my behalf over to Ryan Edwards and Benjamin Albright over on Broncos Country tonight was that I thought the 49ers were going to win. And guess what? They did. My other 3 picks, though, however, fell through. The Chiefs were victorious, ending the Jags run, although it is very exciting to see what I think Trevor Lawrence can grow into under the tutelage and mentorship of Doug Peterson. I'm really excited to see what he was able to do. I think he's climbing those ranks of eliteness in the quarterback system. But who is not? And that would be Dak Prescott. We saw him make some really costly mistakes for his team as Dallas went down against the 49ers. I'm a little upset there because I feel like, I'm not going to fight for the Cowboys, but I think Dak gets a bad rep. I think that he deserves weapons just like any other quarterback does. Mm-hmm. These costly mistakes, these late interceptions, they were too pricey for them to overcome. How about that defense, though? A Dan Quinn-led defense was able to hold the 49ers to about 19 points. And I think that goes for saying something. I think his stock is rising here in Broncos country, and we have to take that into consideration. That's going to be my question to you guys. So wait for it. Joe Burrow, on a man on fire. And I think it was really interesting to see how he could match up against Patrick Mahomes with a little bit of a limp, because it seems as though that high ankle sprain is not going to disappear overnight. Jalen Hurts, the Giant Slayer. I'm really excited to talk about these games, you guys. Where do you want to start? I want to throw it over to you guys. Let's go with the Dan Quinn-led Dallas defense falling to D'Amico Ryan's defense, who just happened to do a little bit better.
Okay, here's my thing on the stock, defensive stock, right? Because I think he's a good D coordinator. I think he's proven that. Like, would we say this Dallas defense is one of the 6 best in NFL history? I wouldn't. Would you guys?
No,
right?
I think that's pushing it.
A lot to ask
for. You know what I would say about? What team I would say that about? The Legion of Boom. I'd say the Legion of Boom is probably one of the 6 best defenses of all time. And the last time he was a defensive coordinator, that was his defense. He's an awesome D coordinator. And then he went to Atlanta as a head coach, and the defense was below average whenever he was overseeing it. And then they take play calling away from him and give it to Raheem Morris, another one of the Broncos head coaching candidates, and the defense would take leaps forward. And then Dan Quinn would take play calling back, and the defense would drastically decline. And then they'd fire him, and the defense would get way better under Raheem Morris. So that's my thing. Dan Quinn's an amazing defensive coordinator. I think he's an amazing defensive mind, and he is a player's coach in the right way. It's something Joey has highlighted very frequently in regard to D'Amico Ryans, and I would characterize Dan Quinn the same way. He's not your Nathaniel Hackett goofball. He's not your Vic Fangio hard ass. He knows how to do both the carrot and the stick, and his players everywhere he's been absolutely love him. However, when I look at him as a head coach, as a CEO figure, there's a lot that worries me. But anyways, in this one game, I thought it was amazing. He was going up against Brock Purdy, but man, gave Brock Purdy more trouble than any other defensive coordinator has. Brock Purdy's averaging 35 points per game, and Dallas held him to 19. I was very impressed with that defensive effort.
I don't know why you're besmirching Brock Purdy over here. I mean, he's keeping up with all of them. What's really a testament to the 49ers is they've been able to plug and play just about anybody at quarterback and seem competent and able to be in competition with some of these other shooters, which I don't know if that's going to carry through yet or not against Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. We shall see. We'll give predictions here at the end of the week. But Joey, go ahead.
Yeah, you know what? So here's my thing with Dan Quinn. I agree with Zach that he's a really good defensive coordinator. I do. I think Dan Quinn is a really good defensive coordinator. Now, my thing is, like, I was told this whole time that he would come to Denver and be the CEO type. I keep that was my thing. Like, I was told that Dan Quinn was going to come here and he wasn't even to be the defensive play caller. He was going to play CEO, hire a guy and give that guy the reins of the defense. That's what I was told. Um, I do think he's a really good defensive coordinator. And honestly, guys, like I've said this on this podcast before, I would not be opposed to another team hiring Dan Quinn as their head coach. Maybe if the Broncos were in a different position, I would be more acceptable of it. I really would. The issue for me is I just don't think he's a great fit with the situation the Broncos are in, with Russell Wilson potentially having to move on from Russell Wilson and developing a new coach or a quarterback after that. That's kind of my gripe with the Dan Quinn hire. And then I've also been very vocal. I don't think his resume is so great that he's the obvious second choice to Sean Payton. I think it should be open competition. Whoever interviews the best or whoever you like the most. I don't think Dan Quinn's resume speaks so crazy to a Sean Payton level, right? Because Sean Payton is in that category. I don't think Dan Quinn's a step behind Sean Payton. I think he's in the same category as everyone else. The Jim Caldwells, the DeMeco Ryans, and then you figure it out from the interviews on who you want to hire. That's I don't know. Dan Quinn's cool, not for the Broncos though.
All right.
I finally got it out of you. Go ahead, Zach.
And I'm in the same boat there with Joey. I just worry, what's the pivot plan after you hire Dan Quinn if his Russ rehab goes south? And I think that's at least, even if you're a big Russ believer, I think you have to acknowledge that it's a possibility that you would like to know the plan in place for if it doesn't work out. But I've already taken my shot at Bree. I think she's the biggest Dan Quinn defender of the three of us. So I took my shot there. Now it's time to take my shot at Joey. My big divisional round takeaway, my man Joey needs to put some more respect on Jalen Hurts' name. Yes, the Philadelphia Eagles are a great football team with great coaching and great talent at a bunch of different positions.
Phenomenal.
But is the quarterbacks play a big part of it too? Yes, absolutely. Joey, are you ready to see the light?
With Jalen Hurts, I feel like I have dug myself so deep in that he's going to have to win 2 or 3 Super Bowls for me to buy. But no, I'm just kidding. Jalen Hurts has made me into much more of a believer, much more of a believer than I was coming into the season. Honestly, I wasn't a big fan of a lot of the players on this team. The Eagles have proven me wrong in multiple ways. Their cornerbacks, I want to say this about the Eagles. Their cornerbacks are phenomenal. That is the best cornerback tandem in all of the NFL. Bradbury and Slay, it's disgusting. Slay, he should have been an all-pro. I'm just going to say it. Slay had a year. I think it should have been like Surtain Slay. Like, we're right there. That's the way I view Darius Slay's season. Phenomenal. But going back to that offense, it's been great. I don't understand really how it works. I feel like I'm watching slants and crossers and I don't know, just things that, and they do the same thing every week. I feel like the team should be able to figure it out, but here's the thing. They have not. So at some point I have to give in and say, the Eagles figured it out. Jalen Hurts is good. A.J. Brown is better than I even thought. This team is really good. I have to give it up. I'm not going to be that guy that stands on a bad take forever. So
there was a bit of a worry that Jonathan Gannon's defense was taking a step back there and kind of costing them that as well. So I think it was interesting to see that the head coach Nick Sirianni was able to come to his defense and say, he got the job done. That Eagles defense was absolutely everywhere, and I think that's important to note because it's not so much just the offense that got that game done, because they didn't score that many points in a 22-16 game. A lot could go wrong. Zach.
Yeah, I'm just glad great point on the defense, Bree. Totally agree there. And I'm just glad my Hurts over Herbert 2020 draft take is just looking a little bit better. After the rookie years, I was like, oh my God, I can never talk about football again. And now it's at least, hey man, which one of them's been on second team All Pro? Which of them's in All Pro? I'm sorry. Is it Justin? It's Justin Herbert, right? Oh wait.
I got hoodwinked. I got bamboozled by the somehow relative notion that the Giants were something. And so I apologize. I discounted the Eagles. I wasn't supposed to. I didn't truly believe it. You can see my tweets, my thread of believing in Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. I just thought that maybe it was a little too destiny ridden and a little too fluky for my liking. Go with your gut, folks. Joey, I saw your hand up.
I'm curious, Zach, I'll give mine because mine's not going to be better than yours. I promise you. What was your quarterback rankings that year? Just like your top 4.
My top 4 was I had Burrow, good gap, Tua, good gap, Hurts, good gap, Herbert. Herbert, just to explain why I wasn't a big fan of him, that draft cycle was I didn't see the progression I needed. He had all the tools, but I saw a lot of the same problems his senior year that I saw his freshman year. That's a big red flag for me, is like, okay, you have the tools, but if you're not progressing any, like, are you the type who's able to put it all together? So big red flag with that was very present in my mind during that. And I think it made me a little too low on Justin Herbert. And yeah, now he's great. But I had him with like a high second round grade and Jalen Hurts with a low first round grade. Just because with Hurts, I thought he had really good tools too. And I had seen appreciable year over year, steady, consistent, reliable growth.
Interesting. So I had Burrow 1. I thought he should have been the first pick of the draft. And I think most people agreed there. Joe Burrow was amazing.
He was the
Then I thought everyone else was really bad. So I'm not just talking big gap. I'm talking massive, gigantic gap, humongous gap. I don't like anybody else. Jordan Love, Herbert, Tua, Hurts. I didn't like any of the rest of them. I really didn't. That was my first year really getting into the draft. So as embarrassing as it is to say, I really, really, really screwed that one up.
I'm with you.
I do want to talk about Josh Allen. A little bit of a disappointment there. I don't know if a ton of people saw this one coming, but apparently they did. With that, a couple of questionable decisions, just really wasn't able to make it happen. But I don't want to discredit Joe Burrow whatsoever, because I think he really stepped up his pocket presence, his ability to read his progressions, just making really smart decisions. It was impressive to say the least. Joe Burrow is him. And an interesting conversation I had earlier today of how not just recency bias, but if you make it this far in the playoffs, your name starts kicking quarterback 1A and 1B. So you got obviously Patrick Mahomes up there. You have Josh Allen intermittently within that. So who's next in line to take that? I think it's Joe Burrow. That game was interesting. It could have gone either way. The Bills got absolutely embarrassed at home. How'd you feel about the Bills-Bengals game? I don't remember who each of you took. I took the Bills.
Bengals 10-0. 10-0 on my picks.
Did you take the Bengals in the points or the Bills in points or straight up?
Straight up. I've got money line on all of these and I'm 10-0 so far. That's something I'm happy about. Hoping to carry that over into the conference championship in the Super Bowl.
Interesting.
So
yeah, I had Bengals as well. That was my pick for this game. But I want to throw this out there. There's never been a cooler quarterback than Joe Burrow in the history of football, I don't think. Dating back all the way to the LSU Cigar National Championship picture, there just hasn't been. There's never been a cooler quarterback ever. Never, ever. And I think he gets extra points for that, in my opinion.
I like Zach's call out.
Sorry, yeah. He and Joe Namath, I think, are the two like true Joe Cools. I know that's Joe Montana's nickname, but it belongs to Joe Namath and Joe Burrow in my eyes. Joe Burr, I think, is honestly like a great little twist on that.
I like Ice Joe.
I like that too. I like them all. He's a cool guy. He's a good quarterback. Give him all the nicknames. On that point, I think he kind of surpassed Allen as QB2 with his performance. He's been amazing this season, especially down the stretch.
I agree.
And Allen, I think throughout the season has shown some inconsistencies. Allen to me is a nuclear warhead. Like sometimes you're going to get a devastating explosion on the other scene or on the other team, and sometimes you're going to get a Chernobyl meltdown. He's just extreme high variance. And last playoffs, he was the good kind of nuke. He was laying waste to the opponents. It was unreal. I don't know if we've ever seen a 4-week stretch of quarterback play that good. Genuinely, he had the only perfect game where every drive was a touchdown since like the 40s. And then 2 weeks later, he had a game that was like a field goal off of being a perfect game. And the fourth one in that series is the Chiefs game where he was just throwing napalm all over the field until his team lost the coin toss. So I think his peak is maybe even still above Mahomes, like where he just goes Super Saiyan and takes over the world. But the consistency isn't there. And I think Burrow really is like the modern age Peyton Manning. He's like Peyton Manning, add a little mobility in there, maybe dial down the arm strength a little bit, and let's ride. But it's not a misery fest. It's great. I love everything he does. Sure, there's great offensive talent surrounding him, but he is also just such an insane decision maker. Like, I wish there was a proper grading service, unlike PFF, and you could go through that, coaches grade their players. I would love to know what like Brian Callahan is thinking grading that tape, because to me it looked like he made every right decision on every play. He was just out of his mind. He might be, with Mahomes hobbled, he might be the best quarterback left right now.
Yeah. What really makes Joe Burrow really super special to me is because when you look at the physical tools, not that fantastic, really. I mean, can he move? He can move, but he's not fast. I don't think he's fast. He's not Justin Fields or Lamar Jackson or one of these guys that can really make something happen in open space. Does he have a strong arm? Honestly, no. He doesn't have a strong arm. He doesn't. Is he super tall? Is he super big? No. He doesn't have many physical tools here. But what makes him so special is that innate ability, and I think we saw and it's kind of what we're missing right now, to know where pressure's coming from and get away from it, maneuver through the pocket, find open spaces in there to extend the play, and give him that extra 1 second to get a good pass off. That's what makes Joe Burrow so special.
He's super complete as a player as well. I think that's what you're naming off there, is that he's able to really go through all of that and be a complete player across all of the skill sets. He's maybe not the top of each QB tier for those, but he's a complete quarterback. Zach.
And then I think the physical gifts he does have, accuracy is very elite and probably goes a little understated. And then part of the pocket presence is the strength in his build. He is not your I'll die on that hill, Joey, 1,000%. He is one of the more difficult to sack quarterbacks in the NFL. I see pass rushers bounce off him more than most quarterbacks. It's not Josh Allen, but it is right up there with the best of them. And I think that negates some of his lack of physical gifts. He might not, be able to scramble away like Lamar Jackson, but he's able to consistently make that first pass rusher miss, either as a result of his amazing pocket footwork and pocket mobility, or he's able to just shake that pass rusher off and extend the play that way. And in this era where second reaction plays are so vital for the offense, I think that's a huge physical gift that he does have.
When you first said that, Zach, for some reason, my mind made me think that you were saying his actual build. He's 216, 6'4". So I was thinking he was just like a menace and people were coming right off of him. But it's his movement and his fluidity that's able to get him some of that.
I don't think it's just his movement and fluidity. I think it's his straight up his thickness in his build.
I don't think he's
100%.
tremendously thick. Am I missing something? Tom Brady's 225.
But Brady has bulked up in recent years.
Okay.
And I also think he's at a stage in his career where the very last thing he wants to do is get hit. I don't think Brady's the most accurate comp. To me,
Zach,
it's Romo-esque. If you look at Tony Romo during his Dallas Cowboys career, he had the same thing where he was a bigger guy and he was a little, not like big Ben Roethlisberger, not like Josh Allen or Justin Herbert big, but bigger. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's not physically bigger and he just plays bigger, but I see him consistently make that first pass rusher miss, consistently shake off that pass rusher. He's got a strong center of gravity, whatever it is. But he is a hard to sack quarterback. And some of that's a lot of it's mobility and presence. I think he's the best in the league at maneuvering the pocket outside of Tom Brady. Who's the greatest of all time in that regard, but I also think he's hard to tackle.
Totally. I just think, yeah, let's move on. We're all good. I don't want to get too far into the weeds on this.
We'll get way into the weeds. That's what we do here at Let's Talk Broncos. Jeff T just showed up, and I wanted to answer this question for him, so I didn't leave him hanging here. Although we talked about coaches to start the show, Jeff T wanted to know over on YouTube, my main question for all of you is, why is it taking so long to select a Bronco coach? Well, Jeff, what I think the great thing about this is although we're all very anxious to have an answer here, is it going to be Sean Payton? Is it going to be Dan Quinn? Is it going to be a first-time head coach like Raheem Morris and D'Amico Ryans? We have yet to see. But what's nice about this is the Walton Penner Group is taking their sweet time and doing a very thorough search for a head coach. Guys, would you like to touch on why it's taking so long for a hire?
Yeah, I don't think it's taking that long. I like, has any team hired a head coach yet? I no, that's my thing. I think the Broncos are just in line with everybody else, if not a little bit ahead, honestly. Having Sean Payton, his second interview, it's his second interview, if that makes sense, with any team. So I think they're even a little bit ahead of schedule of other teams. Like we were talking about it earlier in the show, the Cardinals jumped in this game late. They're just now getting their first interview with Sean Payton, just now. So, I think the Broncos are doing fine on time. But I do want to say I'm feeling your pain, Jeff. There's only so many things you can talk about with these coaching things, and then you get all these reports, and all of them are a little bit conflicting, and we're all trying to figure it out. It's getting frustrating. So I totally understand where Jeff is coming from.
Yeah, it feels like we're reaching, kind of tying back in with our last conversation a little about like the 2020 draft, or a couple of conversations ago about the 2020 draft. It's like that stage. I remember it vividly before the 2020 draft where it's like, maybe Joe Burrow's actually not a good quarterback. Like a week before the draft, it's like, okay, we've been analyzing this too long. We're just like cycling into some crazy hot takes because we've been looking at this one set of data for way too long. And I think that's kind of what's happening with the coaching stuff, to Joey's point. It's like, oh my God, we've over dissected this and now it's just like a pile of mush. I don't think it's really taking all that long. I think Joey was dead on with all that. There points that I was all ready to cite. And I don't think it's going slow or fast, or they're being like, I don't think they're an outlier in this coaching search in any way, except for the fact that the owners have a lot of money. Otherwise, I think they're more or less following NFL protocol. The GM thing, despite what I've seen reported, is odd to me, that he's not even involved in interviews and isn't leading the hunt at all. That is atypical if you have a GM with power. But otherwise, I think it's all status quo. Don't think they're slower. And yeah, it should get sorted fairly soon. Like, it takes a week to conduct the first round of interviews. It takes a week to conduct the second round of interviews. And then I think next week you'll hopefully have your Broncos head coach.
That is an exciting thought. Frankie said in the chat, not highlighting it, but it's hilarious. Rank the Broncos coaching candidates based on hotness. We need to do better on that chart. Hilarious, Frankie. I appreciate you. Thank you for going through all of that. Jeff T says, thank you. We appreciate you so much.
Where are they? Sorry, I'm looking for.
I was like, I didn't touch anything. What's going on?
I'm sorry. I don't have one with all 8. I was going to use that to help me list them off.
I'm not playing really these reindeer games.
No. This is going to take too long. We have 8, and then it could start.
We'll touch on that. Drop it in the mailbag. Everyone who's listening right now,
in the Discord.
You got to put it on the Discord. You have to come into the Discord, join the Discord, and then ask your question in the Discord, and then we'll go ahead and get to that. But I will let everyone know, if you would like to get questions for us, we're going to have a mailbag episode on Wednesday. So please get those questions over to us so we can start thinking about all those answers we're going to cover on a special live episode on.
Sorry, I didn't mean to totally cut you off. I was just going to add, once you were done, a little tease for the mailbag. Number 1 with a bullet, Jerry Rosberg.
I'm so done with you right now. It's time for everyone's favorite time of the night. It's Joey's question of the day.
All right, guys. These 3 Bronco players have worn this number. What number is it? Ronald Leary wore this number. Manny Ramirez wore this number. And Luis Vasquez wore this number. What number is it? You both get one guess, and then I'm going to give you a more obvious one, and then I'm just going to give it to you if you don't give it after that.
I'll defer to Bree on the first guess.
Was that Bree?
I have no idea.
65.
Okay, Bree, what do you got?
All I had was a 6.
It wasn't 65.
I think that's a complete answer.
It was 65. Which one gave it to you? 65, or was that a guess?
Ronald Leary, I couldn't remember if he was 65.
I think Colton answered in the chat.
And then they all sounded like 65.
65.
No, I don't need to cheat. I think I've proven with my Joey's question of the day record that I don't need the chat to help me out.
Both Coop and Frankie got it right. I think that's a 65. Vasquez gave it away for Coop. Nice job, Coop. I would have known. I should have known you would get that
one. A hell of a player.
Ooh, can we trade
all the players I mentioned were really good players, by the way. Ronald Leary he was a mauler. All these guys were really good.
Nice for a brief window there.
Yeah. Anyways.
They need some more.
At least I got in the same. I got in the same number group. I was like 6, and then
Yeah.
So there's that. All right. It's been a fun episode. Guys, where can everybody find your stuff?
Everybody, follow me at JR Drafts. I'm tweeting like 1,000 times a day. Today wasn't the day because of work and different situations like that, but coming soon, tweeting more. I have another article releasing. I hope you guys enjoyed the last one I did on ranking the Broncos head coaches. This one's I'm going to be doing an edge piece, kind of helping Zach with this little positional series he has going on. So that'll be really fun. Edge is obviously my favorite position. Overall theme is the Broncos have invested a lot in that edge room, and I still think they need to do more. And it's just been because, read my article if you want to know more about it. But make sure you're checking that out at Mile High Sports. Make sure you're checking Frankie and I's Let's Talk Draft podcast every single Thursday. And we are talking safeties this week. So if you want to hear about the top safeties in the NFL draft, make sure you are checking that out. But Zach, where can they check your work out, man?
Oh goodness. They can check out all my work over at milehighsports.com. Wrapping up some Broncos coverage stuff for the season that I'm excited about. Got the positional reviews, almost done with those. Got quarterback out this weekend. Go check that out. I think people will be surprised with what I had to say about Russell Wilson, either pleasantly or unpleasantly. I'm not sure. I also have cornerback coming tomorrow and stock up, stock down. The day after that, my year in review stock up, stock down. That one might take until Thursday because I really want to just go all in with it, write about a bunch of different guys. and then exciting stuff on the horizon. So stay tuned for that.
Cool.
We have such a fun week in store. Jeff, you have a great night as well. Don't ever be sorry for coming in late. I'm glad you made it at all. And if you need a reminder, click the little bell so that you know exactly when we go live. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It'll be a ton of fun this week. You can listen to Zach Seegers and I on the Fan Cave 1 to 2 p.m. You can re-listen over on milehighsports.com, Spreaker, anywhere you get your podcast for the Fan Cave, or you can catch us live next Monday, 1 to 2 p.m. for Mile High Sports Radio. Follow me over on Twitter, please. Bree Maces 303. Got a lot of fun stuff happening. I want y'all to be kept in the loop there. And please go watch what's on draft on Thursday, because you can't get enough Broncos coverage, and I know you can't. We'll see you on Wednesday. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week, and talk to you soon.
D'Amico Morris, Peyton Shaw, Quinn,